the girl who chose the blade. History rarely announces itself clearly at the moment of birth. Most lives begin quietly, without prophecy or thunder. Queen Amina's story, however, insists on being remembered differently. Not because we know every detail with certainty, but because the weight of memory around her refuses to fade. The truth about Africa from Africans. Somewhere in the early 16th century, around 1533, by most accounts, a girl was born into the ruling house of Zazu in the wide red soil savanna of what is now northern Nigeria. Her name was Aminatu. Later generations would shorten it to Amina, and eventually history would sharpen it into legend. Zazu at the time was not a peripheral kingdom. It was a crossroads. Caravans passed through carrying salt, leather, cloth, horses, and stories from far beyond the horizon. The city-state sat within the constellation of the Hausa polities, urban, commercial, competitive, and alert to the ambitions of neighbors. Power here was never abstract. It was visible in walls, markets, cavalry, and alliances. Amina was born into this world of calculation and movement, the daughter of King Nikatu and Queen Bakwa Turunku. She arrived, it seems, into expectation. Yet even within a royal household, expectations for a girl were narrow. She was meant to observe, not act, to marry well, to strengthen alliances quietly. This much was normal. What was not normal, what later storytellers could not ignore, was how early she drifted away from those boundaries. There are stories, some likely polished by time, others perhaps closer to truth, of a child who preferred the company of elders to that of playmates. While other children were taught the rituals of courtly womanhood, Amina listened. She sat near councils. She watched men argue over land, tribute, and war. It is said that she learned early that power was not loud, it was patient. One account tells of her grandmother discovering her gripping a dagger with alarming confidence. Instead of fear, the old woman reportedly felt recognition. Whether this moment happened exactly as described almost does not matter. The persistence of the story tells us what later generations believed about Amina's nature. What is clear is this: Amina gravitated towards the armory, not the loom. She trained, quietly at first, then openly. Her mother, Queen Bakwa, ruled in her own right, a fact that already unsettled rigid assumptions about gender. But Amina went further. She did not merely govern, she prepared for war. As she grew, so did the pressure to conform. Royal daughters were political instruments, and suitors arrived with the confidence of men who assumed refusal was impossible. The Emir of Kanu, one of the most powerful rulers in the region at the time, offered a proposal that was almost theatrical in its generosity. 50 bags of fine blue and white cloth, 100 slaves, and a promise of alliance. To refuse such an offer was to reject not just marriage, but safety, wealth, and tradition all at once. Amina refused. It is tempting to frame this decision as rebellion. In truth, it was something colder and more deliberate. Marriage would have required compromise. Command would not. She chose the latter. She remained unmarried, a decision that echoed loudly in a society where lineage and alliance defined survival. Her choice was not framed as ideology, it was framed as purpose. While Queen Bakwa governed Zazu, Amina trained with the royal guard. She learned horsemanship, strategy, and endurance. She learned how men moved in formation, how fear sprayed before defeat, how discipline could steady an army even when numbers failed. By 16, she had earned the title Magagia, the designated heir. This was not ceremonial, it was acknowledgement. Still, inheritance does not guarantee authority. That would come later. In 1566, Zazu was shaken by loss. Both King Nikatu and Queen Bakwa died within a short span of time. Tradition placed the crown not on Amina's head, but on that of her brother, Karama. This decision has sometimes been misread as hesitation or distrust. It was likely neither. Hausa's succession was complex, shaped by custom as much as competence. Karama ruled, Amina fought. For the next decade, she existed in a strange, almost paradoxical position, unofficially the most powerful military figure in the kingdom, officially without the throne. This was the period that truly forged her reputation. The Hausa states were locked in cycles of rivalry and expansion, the so-called seven true Hausa states, constantly testing one another's strength. Borders were not fixed lines, they were arguments settled on horseback. Amina led Zazu's armies not from safety but from the front. Chroniclers repeatedly emphasized this point, perhaps because it unsettled expectations. She rode at the head of cavalry units, spear visible, armor worn openly. Her presence mattered. Morale followed her. Over these 10 years, she did more than defend territory. She expanded it. Campaign after campaign pushed Zazu's influence outwards. Tribute flowed back, gold, goods, captives. Now herself became independently wealthy, a detail oft overlooked but deeply important. Wealth meant autonomy. It meant loyalty could be bought without mediation. It meant power. When Karama died in 1576, there was no serious dispute. The people of Zazu did not ask whether a woman could rule. They had already seen the answer. She was crowned Queen of Zaria, and the transition was swift, almost inevitable. Amina did not pause to consolidate sentiment. Within 3 months, she launched a campaign. This urgency reveals something essential about her understanding of rule. Authority must be demonstrated. She assembled an army said to number 20,000, an enormous force by regional standards, and she marched. Her strategy was not reckless conquest, it was control. Trade routes were the arteries of wealth, and Amina understood this with clarity. She pushed south towards Nupe and Jukun territories, north towards key commercial hubs, enforcing tribute while offering stability. Towns that submitted were protected. Towns that resisted were subdued, then absorbed. It was during these campaigns that her most enduring architectural legacy emerged. Wherever her forces settled, walls rose. Thick earthen fortifications encircled cities, reshaping the landscape itself. These structures, later known collectively as Ganuwa Amina, Amina's walls, were not symbolic. They were functional, defensive, and revolutionary. They standardized urban defense across vast distances and would influence regional warfare for generations. Military innovations extended beyond stone and earth. Amina modernized her forces, emphasizing heavy cavalry and metal armor. Iron helmets and chainmail replaced lighter protection, shifting the balance of power on the battlefield. Her enemy's spears met steel. Often they broke. Her tribute system reflected the same pragmatism. She demanded not only gold but resources that strengthened her state: colonels, labor, soldiers. By modern standards, this system was brutal. By the standards of her era, it was effective. Amina ruled as her time demanded, not as later centuries might wish. She lived restlessly, rarely remaining in one place. She moved with her armies, overseeing camps, fortifications, and routes. This constant motion reinforced her image as a warrior first, monarch second. Over a reign said to last 34 years, Zazu reached its greatest territorial extent. In 1610, during a campaign near Al Tagara, close to present-day Bida, Queen Amina died. She was 77 years old. The circumstances are sparse, but the symbolism is unmistakable. She died not in ceremony, but in motion. What remains is memories, statues, university gates, oral histories. She is remembered as Amina, daughter of Nikatu, a woman as capable as a man. The phrase reveals as much about the society remembering her as it does about the woman herself. Perhaps that is the final irony. Amina's life resists neat classification. She was not exceptional because she was female, nor ordinary because she ruled. She was effective. In history, that distinction often matters most. If you found this story powerful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Which other lost queens of African history do you want to see next? Let's uncover them together.